Welcome. Thank you so much, Grace, for joining us here at First Fridays under the Maryland Writers Association. And I think everybody knows me. My name is Patty Ross, and we are so thrilled to have Grace Cavalieri with us tonight. I'm going to read just a really quick bio for Grace because I think most of us here already know it. Grace Cavalieri received her BS in education from New Jersey College and a MA in creative writing from Goddard University. She is the author of over 40 books of poetry and plays, including her most recently, What the Psychic Said, and Showboat, and then Other Voices. Other Voices, Other Lives. Grace holds the Associated Writers Program's George Garrett Award, as well as the Penn Fiction, the Allen Ginsberg, the Borgadera, I think is how it said, poetry, which is a really cool thing with the book, and the Patterson Poetry Awards and the Annie Award, the inaugural Folger Shakespeare Library Columbia Award, and the National Award from the Commission on Working Women, and the CPB Silver Medal. And we'll probably talk about some of those things later, as that we're going to have a little Q&A with Grace. Finally, she founded and produces The Poet and the Poem for Public Radio, which is now from the Library of Congress, but originated in my hometown of Washington, D.C. at WPFW, of which Grace tells me she actually helped found and went around finding folks to sign up for that. So that's wonderful. And of course, in 2019, she was named an Academy of American Poets Laureate Fellow, and she currently serves as the 10th Poet Laureate of the state of Maryland. Grace, we are so happy to have you here today, and she's going to share some of her poetry with us for a while, and then we'll have a Q&A. If you all have any questions that you'd like for me to ask Grace, if you want to send them to me in the chat, that would be great. And thank you so much, Grace.
Thank you, Patty. I told you, the older you get, the longer your resume is. So you could have cut it short. But
I did. I cut it in half, actually.
Thank you. I love everyone here. I know. This is so cool. It's like in my living room. I'm just going to read for 15, less maybe. And I'm going to start and end with one for my husband. I was married for 60 years, and he left not too many years ago. The first poem is called Heart Correspondence. I take the tea, we place the cups side by side. The handles are turned, mine is on the right. You put the honey in, I stir it. I say, is there enough? You add more, a little milk. No cream, I say, more honey. You stir it again, I stir it again, absent-mindedly, like living twice with this love, which has no need for memory. It was a wonderful husband, but a terrible mother-in-law. And I had many adventures with her. Oh my, she was married many, many times, and she was a handful. But when I was in college, I was going with Ken. I was a senior in college, and he was in the Navy in Corpus Christi. So she said, let's drive to Corpus Christi, Texas. And my parents thought she was a grown person. So they said, oh, okay, that'll be fine. You can go, since it's Ken's mother. She should be responsible. Well, we get in the car and we find she can't cross bridges. She has agoraphobia or whatever it's called. And I cannot drive a car. So every time we got to a bridge, we'd like go into a bar and pay somebody $1 to drive us to the other side. It was a terrifying trip. And here's the poem, Driving South to Corpus Christi. I found you couldn't cross a bridge at Chain of Rocks in Mississippi. Just put your foot down and drive straight across, you said, to me, a child, although I couldn't drive a car. Push the pedal down and just go straight ahead, you said. I did, until the next bridge rose, high and narrow steel, where we stopped and went into a bar to give the man $2 to drive us in our car. You abandoned your son as an infant, and he abandons you now to old age. since you are dying and taking too long about it, I think I know why you can't go on. I'm praying with my foot down on the pedal, too far away to hold your hand. Go ahead and close your eyes and don't look down. I'll take over now, or I'll go in and get the man. Um, I tell everybody who knows me knows that I love to teach the elevator exercise, where I put people in the elevator of their lives and take them through the floors to find their poems. So I thought I better do it myself as I'm teaching it. So I went into the elevator of my life, and literally it stopped on the 3rd floor. And this is exactly what happened. Language lesson. It was a day much like this, gray with drizzle. My mother took me visiting, which was a big event. She didn't drive a car, seldom went out. How did we get there? My father, perhaps, who worked in a bank nearby, he must have dropped us by this large white house with grand pillars. I can't imagine why we were wanted there, but I met a boy my age. I suppose that was it. Get the toddlers together, ready to learn to play. I assessed the toys and took my pick. A brand new trike, and oh, how it went, as shiny as it looked. My new playmate ran crying, filled with envy and complaint. Me wants the bike. Me wants it now. I stopped. The wheels froze on my rug as I looked at the foe. Me wants the bike? I felt the sweet pleasure of superiority, the sweet ache of it, age 3. Superiority. There would be no contest. I could play as long as I liked. I had him by the pronoun. It was the happiest day of my life. And that is true. Now, little boys do develop slower than little girls, but I'll tell you, that was one happy moment. And it's been good ever since, like that. Another thing I do with students is just give them 10 random words. Just throw 10 words across the page and pull it together and see what happens. Mark is shaking his head. He has done this. So I thought I had to do that myself too. So I think the words were like dream and fish and heart or something. 10, I'd pick 10 words. And this is the morning poem. Each of us has a pond. Mine is deep. I sleep beneath the water in a silence so clear, the bloom of desire melts from me. Lightning turns fire to the water of pleasure. Fish are jumping in my heart. No, they are real fish dreaming of me. No, it is not a dream. This is a real heart. So that really works. And I ask everyone to try it. Just pick 10 pretty words off a page and stick them together and see what happens. And also, I do believe in writing a morning poem every day. Really, no one cares but you. This poem is called Temperance, and it's a tarot card number 9. And this came about because I'm always telling students, courage, tell the truth. You're only as sick as your lies. You must, and then I went to a family reunion and they all had read my book. And oh my, I'll never teach this again. You know, my aunt says, your father was really very good to you. And he was a president of the PTA. And your sister did not take your mother's fur coat. This is called Tarot 9 Temperance. Why not write the poem you can sell? Your aunt wants a book by the bed. She doesn't know how lightning starts from the ground. So invent it again, starting in the sky, not connected to anything that can burn. If leaves turn inside out with indication of rain, spin them around again, calling it the opposite of pain. Say it's seasonal. Finish the sentence, I remember, rather than I don't want to remember. Using the language like cloth to conceal the broken body beneath. Never talk of how you love the smell of your own pillow. People don't want personal remarks like that, or how you learned of love by watching other people's happiness. If your father lay down and covered his eyes with clouds at the last minute, with light before you could say you were sorry, do not discuss goodbyes or other family secrets. Even if fear made the mourning dove fly, blame it on the sky. So that is my new advice to people, because you can tell too much, and sometimes people haven't earned it. This poem is called Advice Regarding a Field of Reindeer in the Snow. And it's about all of us who are artists know that if we have partners or companions, there are places we have to go that they cannot go. It is like your dream. You own it. No one can go there. And yet you have to pay a price for that. This is called Advice Regarding a Field of Reindeer in the Snow. If your husband is sleeping, you can leave him a message and go in the airplane with a mysterious pilot, just for an hour, to land in strange cities, farmlands, perhaps with wet leaves and wooden houses with ruffled curtains. You may walk to the edge of what you thought was a forest and look through a thick wall of ice with a gigantic hole and see field after field of reindeer brushed with snow, standing still. How beautiful, like frozen statues, cold and silent, each staring straight at you. Line after line of them. A sight you'd never have seen had you stayed home. You'll never forget it. But remember to leave a note before you go, or your return will be bleak. It will ruin everything. Trip, field, reindeer, snow. As Patty said, I was very involved with starting WPFW in 75. When I left Antioch, I started raising money until 77 when we went on the air. And I met the most, it was so wonderful. I had to cook breakfast at 5 o'clock in the morning. Cook dinner before I left the house. And my kids would say, we're not eating this. It tastes too tense. But I was at that radio station all the time. And I met these, at that time, we had jazz artists and wonderful people coming. It's different now. It's really different from the hippie days. But I met Anthony Braxton, Betty Carter. I met all these great people coming through. And I met Big Mama Thornton. And I don't know, when I say this now to the next generation, they have no idea who these people are, but you may know. That great blues singer. Well, I literally saw her backstage at the theater, and I had met her at WPFW, so she knew me, and this was a true conversation. Big Mama Thornton. Last time I saw her, she wasn't so big, actually. She was downright skinny, singing The Final Time in Washington, D.C. Backstage, she drank a quart of milk with equal parts of gin. Seagram's, she told me. Then she got the idea. Could I contact the Seagram's people, and then she could advertise for them, and they'd like her for drinking a full quart a day, their gin? I said, no, I didn't think so. And I didn't think the milk people would like the commercial so much either. She still felt bad about Elvis stealing Hound Dog the way he did, even though she was too much of a lady to say so. Once she talked about it long ago, before she started milk with gin. I guess the drink left a sweet taste in her mouth. One of the many tragedies of the music industry. And also I met little Esther, and I don't have that poem, but I saw her, and I'd met her through WPFW. She was called Little Esther when she was young, but then just Esther Esther Phillips. And she said to me, my manager is trying to kill me. And I thought, oh, she was on substances, and here she had gotten to the top of her fame, and she was now so messed up she couldn't enjoy her fame. So I saw a lot of beauty and I saw a lot of pain, but I saw things I will never forget, and they have enriched my life so much. The protest. I was supposed to make a 5-minute speech, so I took a tranquilizer, but the speech was canceled. I was to give another speech, but that too is canceled. So as you can imagine, I stayed tranquilized my whole life without speaking. When the fire and blood came up in thin spouts through the kitchen floor, I called the manager, but it is never his fault if we are speechless and in exile. He said the problem in the floor comes from being too emotional. I had another chance to speak once, but the mashed potatoes lay thick on my tongue, and my indignation sounded less than noble. All the audience learned that night is how anger sounds through mashed potatoes. The physical is spiritual, I said hotly, but other people's impressions had already brushed off on me. By the time the audience left, I was a widow in a nightgown, and I had not told what I'd come here to say. And I wish we would all come here to say. And I'm going to end with this poem, as I promised to my husband. It's from my book, The Man Who Got Away. When he died, I wrote 3 books in 1 year because that kept me from going cray-cray. Can I count on you? If I were lying in a boat in a wedding gown, would you see me floating by? If I named a star after you, would you lie in the grass looking up? If I lived in a white house, would you come sit on my front porch? If I were caught in a bad dream, would you please wake me up? If I had a plaid blouse, would you help me button it? If I could jitterbug, would you do the double dip? If I were a red cardinal, would you hold out a sunflower seed? If I caught all the fireflies in the world, would you give me a big jar? If the night nurse forgets to come, would you bring me a glass of water? If I have only minutes to look at the silky moon, will you come get me? Thank you so much for listening.